Let's talk about Superman versus the Elite in my DC cinematic universe. But before we can talk about that, I have to tell you about a pre-movie short you would have gotten during one of the first 3 phases of my cinematic universe. Superman Clark Kent would be in London as a little girl, a metahuman, is having a violent episode of uncontrollable power. She is a powerful psychic, and she is sending waves of psionic energy uncontrollably throughout the city, basically like a bomb, devastating everything in its path. The police are there telling her father that they're afraid they're going to have to kill her. And we see Superman show up. He says, "I'll handle this." We see him go to the father. The father cries and nods, and Superman heads into the maelstrom. He walks through these pulses that at times even push him back. He finally gets to the center. He looks at the little girl, and she looks at him. She can see inside his mind what he has to do. She cries and she nods, and we see Superman's heat vision light up and blast the little girl in the head. The pulses stop, and Superman picks up the girl's limp body and brings it to her father. And then she looks up and she says, "Dad?" Because what Superman actually did was that cool laser lobotomy thing where he looks in the eye and laser blasts it and it refracts back into the brain, and it lobotomized the chunk of the brain that was causing these psionic pulses. The dad crying and nodding and the girl crying and nodding was Superman getting their consent to perform this basically surgery on the fly to save her life. There you go. That's a prequel. You need to know it for this movie. Because now we're jumping into it, and Connor is Superman. He has been doing his best, but a big rising question is everyone in the world basically asking him, what will he be doing as the new Superman that is different from his predecessor? We tune in as Connor is stopping a new metahuman on the scene known as the Atomic Skull, who has been vaporizing civilians before Connor could actually arrive on the scene. Connor stops him, apprehends him, brings him in, and then news reporters flood him asking him this question: what are you going to do different than your predecessor? To which Connor shocks everyone by saying nothing. Superman's job is to save as many people as he possibly can, and that is what he is going to continue to do. Unfortunately, the news takes this clip of him saying nothing and only uses that, and this goes viral, and a lot of people lose faith in Connor as Superman. Well, a little while later, a war breaks out between 2 countries, and so Connor rushes in to stop it. But when he gets there, there's a new super team on the scene already stopping it. They call themselves the Elite, and they say that unlike Superman, they're heroes that the world actually needs. Now, my team of the Elite is a little different. We're still gonna get Manchester and Menagerie and Hat, but I'm swapping out our heavy hitter. And this is when I'm bringing in Atom Smasher. Connor tries to talk to the Elite to talk them down from the very, very severe actions that they're taking to stop this war, saying that even though their intentions are good, they can't force people to believe the right things. No matter how well-intentioned this is, it will end poorly every time. And Manchester scoffs at this, saying Superman of all people shouldn't talk about unintended consequences. And the Elite head off. We then see Connor fly back to Smallville to talk to Clark about this entire thing, asking him what he should do here. And Clark tells Connor to trust his gut. He knows he chose Connor to be the next Superman for a good reason. Connor will make the right decision when it comes to it. And then they see in the news that Atomic Skull has broken out on the way to Belle Rev Penitentiary, and he's on another rampage. And by the time Connor gets there, Atomic Skull has already killed dozens of people. Connor stops Skull again, but as the authorities are coming to arrest and take Skull in again, the Elite show up. And Manchester bombards Connor's mind with a psychic assault, causing Connor to fall to the ground screaming, and then Atom Smasher goes to the Atomic Skull and breaks his neck, killing him in front of a crowd which cheers for them. Those cheers absolutely break Connor. And we get a little bit of seeing him very depressed from this. And unfortunately, that's cut short by Clark calling him saying he needs to turn on the news, where we see that the elite have executed the two heads of the countries that were warring from before. But because of this, two new heads of each country were appointed, and they have started an even bloodier battle. It is complete mayhem. Connor rushes over to try and save as many people as he possibly can, and he literally saves millions of lives over the course of a couple days. But then the elite show up again and kill the new heads of this country, once again to rousing cheers from the people. However, the cheers for Manchester are by people all around the world, not the citizens of these two countries. The citizens of both of these countries cheer for Superman for saving their lives. And they call out Manchester as just another white British guy forcing his beliefs on others. He thinks he knows what's right, and it ruined their lives. Manchester gets upset by them pointing this out, and he tries to attack the crowd, but Superman just decks him right in the face, not allowing that to happen. And in front of the entire world, Connor challenges the elite to a fight. A 4-on-1 for the sake of humanity. If Connor wins, he will turn the elite into the UN, where they will be tried for their crimes. And Manchester says that if they win, he's going to kill Superman. And then we get the big final fight. The elite are doing well, but Connor comes through and begins taking them down. So Manchester unleashes another psychic assault on Connor. And as this is happening, Manchester goes on a rant about how he knows that what he's doing is right, how he knows what he's doing is best, and that he will decide what humanity really needs. And then we see a blood vessel in Connor's eye pop, and blood begins to pour from his nose. And Connor stands up coldly, saying, "Fine, let's play by your rules." Immediately, Connor speed blitzes his hat and punches through his chest, sending a spray of blood everywhere, and the rest of the elite scream in shock. Atom Smasher grows to his maximum size and pulls a fist back to punch downwards at Connor, but Connor looks up and unleashes a cone of heat vision, completely vaporizing Atom Smasher from head to toe. Menagerie flies in to try and stop him, but Connor catches her by the throat, spins super fast, and throws her into space, where she dies in the atmosphere. And Manchester is terrified. He is backing up scared, asking why Connor is doing this. And Connor says, well, because this is what real heroes do, isn't it? They kill villains, and you are a villain. Manchester tries to attack Connor's brain again, but Connor grabs the sides of Manchester's skull and lights up his heat vision. Manchester braces himself, and Connor fires directly into his skull, dropping him to the ground. To us, the audience, it seems as though Manchester has been killed. But then Manchester stands up. We see burn marks on his skull indicative of a lobotomy. Manchester tries to use his powers, but they don't work. Manchester says, "What did you do?" And Connor says, "You know what I did. The same thing the original Superman did to your sister." Flashback to that short from before. That little girl was Vera Black, the younger sister of Manchester. She had the same metagene as he did, but hers was way more powerful, uncontrollably so. So Superman used his heat vision to perform a partial lobotomy to remove the part of her brain that controlled that ability, saving her life. But Manchester screams that it was pointless because Vera ended up dying a few years later. And without her powers, Superman had taken away the one thing that made her special. He had no right to do that to her. Nobody has the right to make that decision for someone else. And Connor says, "I know. And that's why I didn't do it to you." And Manchester then sees his wrist, where on it is a modified version of a metagene neutralizing neck brace from Belle Rev Penitentiary. Connor did heat blast Manchester in the head a little bit to make it seem like he'd given him a lobotomy, but it's just a surface level burn. And that was just to distract Manchester as he slipped the collar onto Manchester's wrist. Connor points out, look how furious Manchester got at just the concept of possibly losing his powers. But Manchester goes around taking people's lives. And Manchester is right. No one person has the right to make that decision. Manchester asks how Connor could say this after murdering his friends, and Connor says, you can come out now. And we see Wally West, Raven, and Cassie Sandsmark all come out with all the other members of the Elite alive and well. Raven used her powers to make it seem like Connor had punched through the chest of Hat, when really, all Connor did was knock him out. Connor did unleash a wave of heat vision towards Atom Smasher, who was plucked out of the way at the very last second by Wally West the Flash. And he did grab Menagerie by the throat and throw her into the atmosphere, where before she could reach anywhere dangerous, she was caught by Cassie Sandsmark and tied up in the lasso of truth, so she couldn't escape. Non-lethally, with the help of his friends. And of course, this entire thing was televised per Manchester's request, and Connor asks Manchester and the world as a whole, did seeing that happen make anyone feel more safe? Did seeing Superman literally rip people apart in front of them make anyone feel at ease? Or was everyone scared? Superheroes have to be that. Superheroes. They cannot take lives, they cannot interfere with politics, and they cannot force their own wills onto others. What they have to do is save people. Let the villain fire a gun, but be there to stand in the way so that those bullets don't hit civilians. Don't take away people's freedoms, but save everyone's lives. That is what it means to be a hero. And Manchester yells at Connor, saying, you can't save everybody. And Connor says, no, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't try. And that is Superman versus the Elite. But ooh, stinger. Manchester is being taken away to Belle Reve Penitentiary, but all of the guards in his vehicle suddenly go unconscious. And a monitor in the vehicle turns on, and we see a silhouette of a bald man. And a recognizable voice tells him that Manchester's vision can come to be, but it will take some time. And suddenly the doors to the transport are ripped off their hinges by a white gorilla, the Ultra Humanite. And the Ultra Humanite rips the inhibitor collar off of Manchester's neck and tells him, welcome to the light.